So today we're going to be making an exfoliating serum that is completely water-based. Now, the reason for making exfoliating serums is because they are the most effective ways of exfoliating the skin and getting instant results. And with continuous use of the serum, you find out that you get an even skin tone that is free of blemishes and hyperpigmentation at the end of the day. You also want to make sure that for skin of color, just as we Nigerians or we Africans, that you're using acids that are very gentle on the skin and that will not create hot spots, or should I say will not aggravate the hyperpigmentation that you're trying to prevent. So for this reason, we're not going to be using glycolic acid in our training. I do not work with glycolic acid for skin of color because it is so strong and deeply penetrates that it can cause sensitivity and create hot spots. Now, these hot spots are the ones that give you more hyperpigmentation. So even if it works almost immediately, at the end of the day, you find out that you're breaking out more and you're having darker spots, or the spots become darker and the skin becomes more sensitive. So we tend to use acids such as lactic acid and mandelic acid, which are much more gentler for skin of color and which are slow to penetrate but are actually just as effective as glycolic acid. My most favorite is the mandelic acid. Why? Because it's very good for even the most sensitive type of skin. It's very good for rosacea as well, and it is also very good for hyperpigmentation and acne. Why? Because it is antibacterial and it works at fighting or getting rid of dark spots. So that is why we choose mandelic acid for this formulation, and that is why mandelic acid is one of my favorites in working with hyperpigmentation. So we are creating an exfoliating serum that's going to be targeting dark spots, hyperpigmentation, blemishes, and uneven skin tone. So let's get started. The ingredients we're going to be working with today is my rose water. I've also got my orange extract. My orange extract is going to be one of the active ingredients that will help in fading off hyperpigmentation. My rose water is going to be the one that will be hydrating the skin and making the skin soft. We're also going to be using propane diol. Propane diol is another humectant, just like your glycerin. It's just that it's not as sticky as glycerin and it's more penetrating than glycerin. So we're using propane diol. We're going to be using gluconolactone. Gluconolactone is a PHA, which is a polyhydroxy acid. It's also very good to use with every other type of acids that you're working with, which helps with making the acid more effective and also acts as a humectant. We're going to be using our hyaluronic acid. Our hyaluronic acid is going to also be a humectant as well as the thickener in our formula. We're going to be using mandelic acid. Mandelic acid is the acid of the formulation. And of course, we're going to be using our liquid Gemal Plus. Let's get started. Firstly, what you want to do is you want to pre-mix your hyaluronic acid, because if you add it directly into the formulation, it's going to create clumps. Even though it will dissolve at the end of the day, you might have to leave it for about 24 hours before it completely dissolves. And sometimes it gives you this fish eyes, that's some tiny little bubbles within the formulation, which isn't presentable for a perfect serum. So it's always best to pre-mix your hyaluronic acid down with your humectant such as your propane diol or your glycerin before you add it into the formulation. So we're going to be pre-mixing our hyaluronic acid. I have 100% formula here, so we're going to be working with 100% formula direct, and I'm going to split it into two because I have two customers that I want to give this formula to try out for me. So we're working with a direct 100% formula. So our propane diol reads 6%. So we're going to be adding 6% of propane diol. Right. So we've added 6% of propanediol. The next ingredient we're going to be adding is our hyaluronic acid. We're adding hyaluronic acid at 1%. So I've added my hyaluronic acid in at 1%. I'm just going to mix it up till I get a perfect slurry, just as the previous video that you watched. And I'm going to keep it aside and measure out the rest of the other ingredients to complete the formula. Let's not forget that we always have to test the pH of the formulas that we're going to be working with, most especially since we're working with acids. You want to make sure that you're having a pH of about 4, exactly 4, and not lower than that or higher than that. If you're going to be having a pH lesser than 4, it might be too strong for the skin, and if you're going to have a pH higher than 4, it might not be as effective. So pH of 4 is what we're going to be targeting. So immediately we're going to start off with the rest of the other ingredients, starting first of all with our rose water. Our rose water reads 73%. I've added in my rose water, as you can see, at 73%. The next ingredient we're going to be adding is our mandelic acid. We're adding our mandelic acid at 5%. You want to make sure that you're working with a low percentage starting off, especially if the person is a first-time user of an acid product. So you want to start with a low percentage as from 5, and then you work your way up as your skin gets used to the used to acids, rather, as your skin gets to you applying acids on your skin. But you want to make sure that you're starting off with a low percentage of 5. So we're going to be adding mandelic acid at 5%. Added in the mandelic, and we've mixed it in thoroughly to completely dissolve. It does not waste time to dissolve. That's another advantage of working with it. So now you want to test the pH and adjust it as much as possible. So we're testing the pH, and the pH of mandelic is a pH of 4. So as you can see, we're having a direct pH of 4, which is this pH. I don't know if you can see it, but this is the pH that we're getting, a pH of 4. So there will be no need for us to adjust the pH. This is just the exact pH that we're looking for. So the next ingredient I'm going to be adding is our gluconolactone. We're adding it in at 2%. Do not worry, the pH is not going to adjust because gluconolactone also serves as a chelator. So it is not going to affect the pH. But even if you're not sure, then please, you have to make sure that you test the pH again after you've added your gluconolactone to be sure that it is not going lower than that pH of 4 that you're trying to achieve. Okay, so we've added in 2% of our gluconolactone, and I'm mixing it in thoroughly, and we're going to test the pH again just to be sure that we're still having an exact pH of 4. Alright, so we're testing the pH again, and as you can see, like I said, it is still a pH of 4, which is exactly what we're looking for. Perfect. So now onto the next set of ingredients, after we must have dealt with the ingredients that are pH sensitive. So the next ingredient we'll be adding is our orange extract. We're adding in our orange extract at 6%. Okay, so we're going to give it a little bit of mixing. I also forgot to mention that we were going to add in our papaya extract. This is our papaya extract. It's still infusing. So I added in the same measurement of papaya extract as our orange extract, which is 6%. So I added in 6% of our papaya extract. This is what the formula looks like. Now we're going to be adding in our preservative. We're adding our preservative at 0.5%. Like I said before, you want to make sure that your scale can read decimals so that you'll be able to measure out decimal reading such as your preservative, which is Liquid Gemal Plus. But if you're using any other preservative that is higher than 0.5, please make sure that you're adding it at the accurate measurement and you're not going overboard. So I've added in my Liquid Gemal Plus and I'm mixing it in thoroughly. And the next thing we're going to do is to mix in our hyaluronic acid and propane diol, which we had already pre-mixed down. So we're just going to mix it in. As we're mixing it in, we want to make sure that you're stirring the one that you have so it doesn't form any form of clumps, because sometimes it tends to clump up. So you want to make sure that you're stirring it in thoroughly. So in order for you to see exactly what I'm talking about, I'm going to pour this in here so you see the vibrant, beautiful color of the serum that we have just made. As you can see, it is thickening up quite nicely. Okay, and this is the end of the serum formulation. So if you look at this, this is what it looks like. Very beautiful and so quick to absorb in. Thank you.